All Dharma Masters and Lotus friends, Namo Amituofo. I am honored yet humbled to have this opportunity to speak with you briefly tonight. Some words that come from my own perspective. I would like to share a bit about what I have learned from my own efforts of walking the Pristine Pure Land Path. That is, efforts to put Amitabha recitation at the center of my life. Balancing both learning and practicing so as not to lose sight of the utmost importance of the latter. I'm brought back to how I graciously discovered the Pure Land Dharma. Since childhood, I remember having an interest in Buddhism from a distance, with a very vague understanding. In searching for answers as an adult, I began considering Buddhism as a practice for myself, occasionally reading some books that were very inspiring, albeit too abstract for me to embrace personally and wholeheartedly. Deep down, I remember wanting to understand how Buddhism can be a suitable practice for so many ordinary, normal people. The ideals of Mahayana Buddhism clicked with me once I read the Lotus Sutra and the Earth Store Bodhisattva Sutra. It was then that I read a book, The Teaching of the Buddha, which casually mentioned the salvation of beings who call Amitabha's name. The conditions must have been right for me to discover the pristine Pure Land Path. I remember then reading some Pure Land-based teachings and easily identifying the difference between those which facilitate self-power versus those which are solely based on Amitabha's other power. I remember first finding Master Huijing's pristine Pure Land teachings, emphasizing the 18th vow of Amitabha Buddha through short animations, thus illuminating the easy path for me and lifting a weight off of my shoulders. I, as an ordinary being, may not even scratch the surface of true sincerity or pure faith. I do find peace and comfort in knowing that the merits and virtue of Amitabha Buddha and his Pure Land are already encapsulated through the power of exclusive name recitation. I'm sure I would never be able to stay on course without the guidance of the pristine Pure Land Dharma teachings and the good Dharma teachers. I'm left to, at best, admire and imitate the many simple practitioners of this path who I have had the blessings to encounter in my short time learning Buddhism. Learning the Pure Land Dharma should be easy to do. I'm finding that a good understanding can help strengthen one's faith in Amitofo and in rebirth, building an important foundation for our practice. It's best to decisively focus our attention on the solid teachings of our lineage and not be distracted by our curiosities, dissenting voices, or past practices. To me, understanding karma and practicing chanting together help me cope with the worries of this life. Accepting my participation in my own karma and leaving my shortcomings to Nyenpo. This is why the learning is easy, because the practice itself is easy. If our learning is sufficient to sustain our practice, it's enough. Balancing time to focus on chanting has required discipline, as well as for social obligations such as family and work. With the ups and downs in life, I think our energy to chant or study will naturally vary, which is why I feel it requires discipline. I personally admire those who are steady in a daily routine to supplement their practice. I have always found myself feeling better returning to the basic sharings from our teachers that appeal to my emotional needs. In this way, there is the value in themes that encourage simply developing and growing faith in our assurance of rebirth as we practice recitation. One example is a publication available to us titled Let's Learn to Love by Master Jingtsan. It is a simple compilation of Dharma pieces, which has now helped me many times to end a long, stressful day with tranquility. I think it's okay to avoid frustration in studying more complex teachings. When I am certain something is written from a pristine Pure Land perspective, I try to remember this and let things be. So if I don't understand a difficult concept, I just remember that all of the knowledge I need is already included in the straightforward Nianfo practice. It's liberating to know that all of the long explanations of the Dharma and Amitabha's Pure Land are an expedient means for us to recite his name as to receive full benefits. I can look back on how inspired I was when finding out that this universal path provides us an ultimate solution and that it helps us all leave this world of suffering and thus gives us a faith to hold on to. Recognizing this truth has helped me build aspiration for rebirth. Seeing certain public events, as well as those in my personal life, had pushed me to seek further for answers until I have found steady ground walking forward on the Pure Land Path. So again, while studying to accumulate good doctrinal knowledge has been important for me in developing right views, I also think it's perhaps more important to study or read materials that appeal to our humanness. I personally have found myself much more eager to read the more simple yet inspiring accounts that help me feel sound, regardless of our unstable surroundings. Maybe we can't be this laxed in our mundane responsibilities, but when it comes to learning the Pure Land teachings, it's okay to do so in search of refuge and relaxation. This Dharma path should allow us to feel like we've arrived home, so we can open up to the Buddha with confidence and trust. I hope we can finally rest when we hear the Dharma words that reassure us of our rebirth. And as we learn to see ourselves as a simple child of the Buddha who holds us close and pardons all of our transgressions, we can lose the habit of being callous and calculating with others. We will also have more slack to give those who seemingly take from us or trespass us, even through slander. I'm learning to better accept my ordinary place and limitations. No pretentious cultivating or fooling myself, I can help others through expedient means like bodhicitta. No meritorious suffering to gain sainthood, etc. It is better for me to humbly retreat to the Pure Land path as soon as possible, trusting the Buddha's name. I am confident putting this Dharma into practice has helped me be a kinder and more calm person in this life. However, the ultimate goal will be to cultivate true compassion when reborn in the land of bliss. As a person coming from a background different from Buddhism, there have been challenges that some may say would be unique to a Pure Land practitioner coming from a Western culture. Although maybe we could say the challenges are more universal and come from being trapped in the Saha world due to past karma. Either way, I know that the challenges I have faced have been weakened, if not actually diminished, by the power of the Buddha. One main challenge would be embracing faith in Amitabha Buddha versus trying to let go of dissenting views from my upbringing and previous religious experiences. The second main challenge would be the obstacles that can arise with those closest to us who may express their concerns, even when made in a loving way. With any change, I think our doubts can easily make things much more difficult for us than is needed. Luckily for us Amitabha reciters, we can take a step back in Amitabha's grace and allow our emotions to subside naturally. When certain wrong views bubble up to the surface, I simply remember valuable things I learned from my previous paths that actually helped me find my way to Pure Land Buddhism. Even certain doctrines which were deeply ingrained through my upbringing have helped me to ask questions that led me to where I am now. If I decided to hold on to my muddled understanding and believe by my own power, it would probably just lead to trouble. The good Buddhist teachers show us the way to seek assistance from Amitabha Buddha. I am not alone while seeking out the truth. Master Jingtsan has said the following when addressed with this topic. Do we ordinary beings have the ability to make a wise choice? No. So we recite Amitabha Buddha's name. We should pray to Amitabha Buddha, who can grant us strength, clear understanding, and wisdom, so that we can ultimately determine our fate. Amitabha reciters are all blessed by the Buddha. With that blessing, we will naturally know what is the most appropriate and smooth way to deal with our past spiritual experience. We do not have to struggle on our own. This reminds me to return my attention to Nianfo, as our ego can cause hurdles in our path. We have caused the deep karmic relationships that sometimes resemble the painting of the two rivers and the white path. The friends reassure us that they mean no harm and have the best intentions in mind. We learn to avoid becoming too emotionally charged, return the same love Amitabha Buddha has already given us, and resolutely continue forward. I am grateful for the Dharma words that have helped me to slowly learn to avoid reactions such as arguments that may worsen the situation. I'm finding we can save ourselves the exhaustion and employ the energy for Nianfo. While it can feel desperate when we are not able to convince the ones closest to us to join us on the white path, we can still benefit them knowing that we planted a seed and that is enough on our behalf. Master Honen stated, "There's no need to be anxious or impatient when we face a stubborn or resistant audience while spreading the Dharma. Just plant the seeds of liberation. Who knows? The person who opposes the teachings most fiercely now might be the one who develops the most fervent faith in the future." Our Dharma teachings help me to know it is okay to retreat from conflict and recite Amitabha's name. Our ordinary abilities blind us all to the past actions that have caused our circumstances. We can pray for wisdom from Amitabha Buddha, knowing when we recite his name, the current situation has already been lightened and pivoted towards the best possible outcome unfolding before us. I find the reinforcing words from an excerpt by Master Jie remind me how to best practice daily just as I am. He says, accept the ordinary self and find peace in the reciting self. Learn to embrace our imperfections. For an unwavering recitation of the Buddha's name, we are his perfect children. So reciting the Buddha's name in this way has helped me cope with my daily life. I am sure I make wiser decisions than before in my interpersonal relationships. Now I more appreciate allowing others to have the advantage. Master Huijing's teachings show what it means to be yielding to others. I can benefit others and myself by avoiding discord. I can also suffer unfairness more easily to give back to karmic creditors. Thus mindful, I may have been worse in the past. I can be sure Amitabha Buddha will repay me for my temporary worldly loss and bless the lives of all who are involved. so problems now do not seem so magnified. We cannot deny the daily divisions in our lives, but now I can do my best to at least try to adopt a grateful attitude even when things do not go as planned. If it were not for these minor inconveniences, would I possibly forget about resolutely aspiring for rebirth in the Pure Land? I can appreciate that when I suffer a little in this world, it is as if signs point me to aspiration in Amitabha's Pure Land. Better understanding Buddhism, even the outwardly enjoyable worldly affairs can be tiring. Nianfo helps loosen the clinch on our attachments, while returning to Amitabha's name for healing. To sum the concept of our practice up most effectively, we rely on the two kinds of deep faith. This is the most important lifelong learning I can esteem. Words from a piece titled Vanity and Substance by Master Jingtsan say this in regards to these two kinds of faith. Ego and face are of no account to practitioners of the Pure Land school who are guided by two kinds of deep faith. Possessing the first kind of deep faith, one confesses this readily. I am an iniquitous ordinary being, subject to endless rebirth. Since time immemorial, I have died and been reincarnated without hope of leaving the cycle of rebirth. Such deep faith and conviction leaves no place for the ego or dignity of the practitioner, does it? One gains a very real benefit by developing the second kind of deep faith, which says, Amitabha Buddha embraces and receives all sentient beings with his 48 vows. Without doubt or fear, we are certain of rebirth in the Pure Land by relying on the power of his vows. Does any benefit of real substance outshine the jewel of rebirth and achievement of Buddhahood in the Pure Land? To finalize my thoughts, I turn back to you, our Lotus friend community. Including this presentation, I have been given the unique opportunity to be able to share many different Dharma articles over a few years. I have found while preparing each time, I'm still learning from the teaching even at the final moment of speaking live. More importantly, through this learning of the Dharma, I can find ways to apply the teaching directly to my life. I hope that as I share and learn, it will encourage others to do the same to benefit their lives as well. We are all in need of peaceful truths in which to rely on and hold on to with reverence. Lastly, with this in mind, I find myself mentioned in the Pure Land Sutras. I hope you will too. When I read Amitabha Buddha's promise spoken as Bhikkhu Dharmakara, saying, if I should not become a great benefactor in lives to come for immeasurable kalpas to save the poor and afflicted everywhere, may I not attain perfect enlightenment. Reflecting on this, I am the poor and afflicted here that is saved by the Buddha, our great benefactor. Knowing this, I learn I must receive help before I myself can help those whom I cherish. Thank you all for allowing me your time. I hope you are inspired to share your learnings with each other more often. Namo Amituofo.